Hi, I'm James. In this video for tipsquirrel.com, I'm going to show you how to apply a tilt and shift effect to portraits to emphasize the face, and then also how to add a desaturated diffuse glow with a kind of high contrast finish. The first thing we need to do is make a duplicate of the background layer. So make sure that that is active and hold down Ctrl and J. And then we need to use the marquee tool to make a selection of the area that we would like to blur. So just hit M on the keyboard and make sure that the elliptical marquee tool is actually selected. If not, just hold down the Shift key, and then by pressing M multiple times, you'll see there that it just scrolls between the rectangular and the elliptical marquee tools. And then we're just going to create that selection so that hopefully we're not going to be cutting out any of the face. So this is the kind of shape you would get with a tilt and shift lens. Now if you find that you need to move that selection around, just hold down the space bar and that allows you to do so. So that guide there is telling me that it's dead center, so I'll let go. And next we just need to hold down Ctrl, Shift and I to invert that selection, because we want to actually blur this area here above the person in the portrait and this area just below. And then go to Select and click on Select and Mask. So this is showing us the area that is not going to be selected. So we need to set a feathering amount of about 300 pixels for this particular image here. The exact size depends entirely on the size of the sensor of your camera. So it could range anywhere from 300 pixels to 500 if you've got a really high resolution camera. But for this particular camera, about 300 is fine. And what I'm going to do is just change the view mode to overlay, because by doing that I can really see where the blur is actually going to take effect. I just want to make sure that the main area of the face isn't affected, so catching the top of the head and just below the chin, that's perfect. Once we're done here, just hit OK. If you do happen to find that the selected area is actually encroaching on the face, you can use the Shift Edge and that will allow you to change the actual size of the selection. So because we're inverted, you have to go to minus figures to actually make the non-selected area larger. So I'll just hit 0 there and OK. And next up we just need to go to Filter, Blur and Lens Blur. So for this particular effect I like to set the radius to an amount of about 60, so you'll see there that that is actually already set. You can choose whatever amount you like. If I just type in 40 here, that's probably about as low as you'd want to go, and then going up incrementally in tens you get slightly different effects, but for the sake of showing a really nice strong effect I'm going to go for 60. Don't worry about any of the other settings, just the standard settings that are already in place are going to be fine. And then once that's done, just hit OK, and it just takes a few moments to render the blur. And if we just hit Ctrl and D, that will deselect that area and we can just have a look at the before and after. So you'll see there how much of a focus it creates on just a small area of the portrait. Okay, so next up what we need to do is duplicate layer 1 by holding down Ctrl and J, and then desaturate it by holding down Ctrl, Shift and U. Then we're going to add the contrast and a degree of transparency by setting the blending mode to overlay. So there you'll see it's now really quite high contrast. Now we're going to go back up to Filter, Blur, but this time we're going to use Gaussian blur, and there is an amount of 50. So I'm going to change that and set the amount to about 40, but anywhere between 30 and 50 is going to work really well for this effect. Okay, so that is really quite strong, so I'm just going to drop the opacity of this layer slightly. So let's have a look at what it's like at 50. So that's the after, so before and after. So that's a really nice diffuse glow effect, but I would like to add a touch more desaturation. So What we need to do now is go down to the adjustment layer icon, which is a half white, half black circle at the bottom of the layers panel, and select black and white from the list of options. And we're going to leave everything set as it is and just change the blending mode of this layer to multiply, and then hold down Ctrl and J to duplicate that layer. But this time we're going to change the blending mode to screen. So we've got one darken layer and one lighten layer that kind of balances. Okay, so that top layer is now selected, so hold down Shift and then click on the lower black and white layer, then hold down Ctrl and G. That will group the layers, and now we can control the opacity of those two layers together rather than having to do it individually. So let's have a look. Let's take it to about 35, and so there we're just kind of knocking the edge off the colour a touch more. And then what we can do just to neaten up our layers panel is hold down Shift again and left mouse click on layer 1, hold down Ctrl and G, and we can group all of those layers together. And let's just rename that TS Glow so we know what it is. And that is how it's done. So that's our before image there. And there is the after. So that is how to apply a tilt and shift effect to portraits with a really nice high contrast, desaturated, diffuse glow.